What is up, RotoGrinders? 2 hours nonstop NBA DFS conversation starts right now, taking y'all straight up the lock. If you're not aware, if you're not pieced together, if you're not figured it out, DraftKings and FanDuel, two different slates going down tonight. DK, including all the games, FanDuel putting a halt to the slate at 9 o'clock. So we're going to have two distinctly different conversations. DKs, including the last three late games that start at 10 o'clock or later. The Grizz at the Kings. New York at Golden State, and Atlanta at the Lakers. So keep your mind, understand, builds will be different as far as the slate. Joining me today, one of the greatest DFS players in modern times. I say modern times, like what other time was DFS? Just in all times, right? Like back in the golden age, they were DFS. There was some spectacular. It's like the Jordan LeBron debate, like a squirrel versus like, I don't know, Leonardo. I don't know why I'm picking that name for no particular reason, but yeah. Squirrel, what's up? Happy Monday. How are things in your world?
Yeah, good weekend. Ready to get into it. It's a busy week because we've got a lot of stuff going on. There's even a lot of basketball going on. It's not NBA, which I guess is always the case, but I'm actually paying attention to it this week. So got March Madness and NBA gets increasingly maddening as March goes on and into April. Yeah, it'll be a good, interesting time.
We got about a month left in the NBA season, 10 days until full, baseball slate gets opened up. Obviously the Dodgers are there in Korea now. They're going to have that 2-game series against the Padres, I believe, in the 22nd. I guess that's the official technical start of the season. But, yeah. Well, can I a little bit of a beef here? They call it March Madness, right? You've heard that. It's great branding. It sounds like it's March 18th. The tournament does not start till March 22nd. I mean, we're calling it the whole month is March Madness. Was it mad on the 1st or the 5th or the 10th?
Well, I feel like it's a general college basketball term, and so if you include like the conference tournaments and stuff like that, right? Like, so there was a lot of like thrilling college basketball last week, and that was referred to as March Madness. So yeah, I see your point. And it extends into April, much like the World Series. Is it now Mr. October or Mr. November, or what is it? If the World Series is happening in November, but yeah,
it's good marketing and it's good branding, and they're never going to get rid of it. But it's a little nitpick. That's all. Hey, by the way, speaking of, people always give me grief for talking about my season long team or my dynasty team. People love that talk for sure on a DFS show. But I see you made it to the finals in the RotoGrinders season-long league in the NBA. So not only do you crush DFS, your team. I just got bumped out of the playoffs, so I stopped paying attention. But I did see the email that you're in the finals. Is that when the finals takes place? It's pretty sharp. Whoever set that up, I guess that was Cam who set it up, because why would you want to deal with the finals the last week of the season? Will be a disaster. But congratulations and good luck to you.
Yeah. It's in the RotoGrinders finals. I told my wife, I could win like $500. Or I said I could win 500, and the FanDuel Live finals this week. So she was like, "Wait, I don't understand. Like, it's just $500, like $500 or like 500,000." I'm like, "No, the 500,000 is like the FanDuel Live final. I could win 500 in the RotoGrinders. So not that it's
there's a FanDuel Live final. Is it destination or no? It's at home.
It is at home. And I presume it's still going on on Wednesday. I haven't heard anything about it other than having the entries tickets in my account.
I don't understand. There's a chance it's not going to happen. What have I missed?
I guess I don't have clarity on like, are they going to be chopping off the last two games? Is it going to be late swap or not? Is there any am I going to get a T-shirt? Like, I don't know.
The important question to ask is, am I going to get a T-shirt? I think that's definitely the first thing I would want to know the answer to when you're vying for such big stakes. Monday, do you like this? I guess it's two different conversations, right? Whatever you want, dealer's choice. You want to play just a 5-gamer. If you want to close the laptop at 9:01, fire up the Netflix or whatever it may be. Of course, we have a lot of information up in the air. Boston, I mean, we talked about this before. They're going to be playing games the rest of the way because they earn the right to play games. They're so far ahead in the Eastern Conference. They've already decided to sit some people, but now Tatum is questionable. Brown is questionable. I assume we'll get clarity on that at some point. Jimmy Butler's got that foot, so he's questionable. LeBron, I assume he plays, but he's officially questionable. Anthony Davis, he has that eye, but he's expected to be good to go. Did not finish the game last time out. Gobert, revenge game. He's got a rib, so he's questionable. Seems like there's a decent chance Cunningham rests for Detroit. We may get Kobe White back tonight. Probably not. There's a small chance, though. And I think I saw a note where he was at practice, for what it's worth. Tobias Harris probably not going to play. Well, he's officially questionable. A lot of pieces we're kind of monitoring. We'll do our best. Is there one that's really kind of standing out for you? Like the Boston thing, we don't really know. Scheduled blowout, right? Monster favorite here against Detroit, 16-point favorite or so, give or take. Doesn't really matter who plays, who dresses for Boston. But again, and the Pistons probably decent chance they're going to be without Cunningham as well. What do you see as far as the players we're monitoring the most when it comes to affecting how you're going to make lineups depending on if they're in or out?
I think the Boston news is going to be big, just because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are both questionable, I think. So if they're both out, then we're going to have a bunch of Celtics showing up as really good value. Yeah, because Drew Holiday, Sam Hauser, and Al Horford are already out. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are questionable. If they're both out, then we're going to have a ton of Celtics we need to parse through. If one of them is in and the other's out, then whichever one is in is going to show up as a spectacular value. There is some concern, if they're playing Detroit, and especially if Cade Cunningham's not playing, this might be a huge, massive blowout. Then again, Jason Tatum just put up 56 points, 56 FanDuel points against Washington last night in 2.5 quarters. And Detroit's a somewhat similar matchup, not quite as good. The bench guys for Boston are also still really cheap. I've got to parse through that. And then I think the Chicago news is actually pretty big as well. They're playing Portland, and I think Alex Caruso is questionable. Kobe White is questionable or doubtful. So, I think especially if Caruso's out, that's kind of a big hole for Chicago. I guess if both of them are out, that's a big hole. So you have to figure out what's going on there as well.
The Bulls have one of the worst 6 through 10, or as far as their second rotation is really, really thin. It's really, really weak. Caruso officially questionable. Doesn't feel like it matters, but Julian Phillips is being out. That's one of the guys that would get some minutes. Of course, Patrick Williams, he's done so for the season, as is Levine, as is Ball. We haven't seen him all year, I don't believe. Decent chance that White is out as well. And also the back-to-back stuff, it's kind of worth noting. Boston on the back half of a back-to-back facing Detroit on the back half of a back-to-back. So there are a lot of factors in that game that says it's going to be squirrely. And really, again, Boston's going to be goofy all year. They're down the stretch, giving people fake injuries, whether they need them or not. But again, they kind of earned that right. And I think there's a decent chance one of Tatum or Brown sits. Porzingis should be good to go. White should be good to go. They ruled out Holiday and Horford, like you said. Even Hauser. Hauser's one of those guys that kind of elevates up. And I think he actually legit did get hurt, turning his ankle yesterday, for what it's worth. Do want to say what's up to the chat. Chat, hit that like button. Do subscribe and turn on those notifications. Derek wants to know, what is Squirrel bad at? Is there something you can say that you're actively bad at? I was talking about
I once tried to do this thing where people gave clues for movies. I would guess the movie. It's terrible. I could not get it. Incredibly bad.
Well, I'll tell you what, Squirrel. Today, you can redeem yourself because we're running it back once again. Another giveaway on a Monday. Do submit your answers. You got to submit your answers in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, into the live stream chat channel. Every 15 minutes or so, I'm going to release a clue. There are 5 total clues. Let's drop the first clue now. You got to tell me what movie this is, and you only have one guess. Only one guess each round. There's no spam in the chat. The very first clue is Diamond. And Squirrel, you can play along. I always run these by producer Devin and producer Steve. And they want to tell me, standing in practice, basically, if it's legit, if it's not legit, they both signed off that this is a legit, it all makes sense. It all checks out. And I think somebody might get it on 3. There's a chance that's where we're sitting par. Par is at 3. I can see a birdie. Happening. Hopefully there's no Eagles. It's no fun if people get it right away, right out the gate, which we had once before. But, Diamond. Diamond is the first clue. We will release more clues as we continue the show. Go ahead and jump again. Live stream chat channel. Oh, I didn't even tell people what they can win. I guess I feel like at this point they should know. You get yourself a week free of RotoGrinders Premium. All the bells, all the whistles, everything but NASCAR. Never been a better time. I should let y'all know, if you don't actually win this, you can get yourself some RG Premium. Sign up for RG Premium, get basketball, golf, college basketball, March Madness. Get March Madness content's going to be massive, obviously, these next several weeks. NHL, MMA, and MLB right around the corner, just 10 days away. You can get a 6-month combo subscription for an exclusive price of $469.99. That's a savings of $250 instead of buying it individually every single month. If you buy the 6 months, you get $250 off. If you don't want to fully jump in on 6 months, understandable. Sure, you want to get a little test drive, just dip your toes in the water. 3-day pass is $19.99. Feel free to check it out. Check the links in the description. We also have $10 off scores and odds. If you want to hit up some player props, some sides, some totals. I saw buying for several other people were posting. There's a lot of already some college totals, college takes. I'm not sure if the lines have moved, but a bunch of games, bunch of lines dropped there for the games on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. People are guessing in the chat. I mean, even if you were correct in the chat, that would not. And come on, Blood Diamond. If I gave out Diamond as the number with the clue number 1, and then it's Blood Diamond, I mean, that's a bad job by me as far as scripting the game. It's a space. If that's what it is, I'm not saying if it is or isn't. If you want to make that your official guess, by all means, go for it. But that's, I will put that at 5, right? Come on. And it's not Romancing the Stone. Again, I will say that the guesses there in chat. People are throwing out some names. Do check out the the Discord channel. I just want to see if anybody got it just yet. I'm rooting against y'all to get it because I want it to be a more fun game. Does not appear anybody has hit it. Oh, you know what? Unbelievable. I make these things too easy. I'm not going to tell the person who got. I want to play it out just for fun. We'll play it out for fun, but somebody did hit it. Unbelievable. Bad job by me. I got to make this harder. That's what the bottom line is. But we do have a winner in chat, and we'll play it out for funsies. But you guys are too sharp. Anyways, anything else we should say before we dive into the old game by game deal? I'm tilted now. I didn't make the game hard enough, Squirrel.
It's all right. I've got guesses percolating in my head. But I've got probably 5 guesses, but we'll see. We'll play it out. Let's just go game by game. Distract ourselves from this movie.
We just got the If Then article has been dropped as well too. We're talking about that pre-show, monitoring Jimmy Butler potentially being out, Cade Cunningham potentially being out. That would open up. I think Marcus Sasser would probably be the most interesting cheapie. I think he'd be the guy that would kind of start popping. His projection would be 27, 26 points. So I think Sasser will be pretty interesting as a median projection. Harris, we have an if-then for him. An if-then for Jaylen Brown. An if-then for Lauri Markkanen, who finally came back. Okongwu was officially questionable. I think he was upgraded to questionable for Atlanta. All right. Can't do it for every single person, obviously. It takes some time, but those are some of the players we'll be talking about. Anything we should note, big picture-wise before we dive in? I wanted to run some updated optimals. I know we got a brand new, about, 2 minutes ago, not even 2 minutes ago, we have new projections. It's probably a little bit of tinkering here and there. I'm curious if anything changed drastically when it comes to the optimal stuff. But, yeah, anything else we should note before we go game by game here?
Just, the big differences in the sites between FanDuel and DraftKings with the last 2 games off of DraftKings. And then, just a boatload of injury news we're waiting on. So I'm sure a lot of it will come out during the show. Probably some of it will come out in about 15 minutes with the 5:30 injury report. But a lot of stuff's just very hypothetical right now.
All right. And I'll give those results in just a second. I'm doing a little bit of an update when it comes to what is hitting my optimal stuff. There's only one game at 7 o'clock, but Score, I like to ignore the 7 o'clock game, but I don't think we can. 225 is the total. The Cavs are 6-point dogs here, taking on the Pacers. Pacers, pretty good matchup. Perfect storm style, right? Cleveland is super thin with a good matchup here. Indiana, really, really healthy. No Matherd. He's done for the year. No McDermott, but Cleveland. We saw Donovan Mitchell come back, but now he's gone again. He's got that nose. Max Strus, they said no timetable for him. Mobley, we haven't seen in a while. And Dean Wade, not officially out, but he's doubtful. I'm seeing 10 bodies that we potentially have for Cleveland playing tonight. That's including Marcus Morris, Damian Jones, and Tristan Thompson, So that's, It should be a really, really tight rotation here for the Cavs. We can't ignore this, right? We have to play the 7 o'clock game. I think we do.
Yeah, I think we have to at least think about it. We probably can't ignore it completely. So with Cleveland, I mean, I think like Jared Allen is pretty well priced on FanDuel. Getting good amount of them on FanDuel on DraftKings. The guys that are kind of showing up in optimal type lineups are Sam Merrill, Craig Porter, and Karis LeVert. I'm a little bit under on Sam Merrill. Like I don't think he's going to be starting here. So we'll see if that adjusts projections. I think there's a good chance we'll see like Isaac Okoro. And then Craig Porter Jr. homecoming into Indiana. So maybe he's the guy we want off the bench rather than Sam Merrill.
What's the homecoming? Did he go to play college there? Is that where he's born and raised? I don't know his backstory.
Yeah, he's born and raised in Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, he's an interesting cheapie, and I think he's one of those guys that's projected for less than 18 points, but is still hitting optimal stuff. I think that's where we're at on him. Yeah, 16.75 on DK, 18 minutes, 3.3K. I usually try to like not let players that are projected for like 15 points or 14 points into my optimal stuff. Do you put those sort of rules in or not so much? I guess you can kind of open it up when you're running more lineups. Do you ever
it really
cap it or
depends
just
on like the size of the slate and stuff like that. Like I actually love using guys like that on like 2-3 game slates.
Yes,
because like a lot of people overlook them entirely. But then if like one game goes totally awry in a like 2-game slate or 3-game slate, like suddenly you might want that $3,500 small forward on FanDuel that scores 14 points or 12 points or whatever. Like that might be the key to unlocking the slate. So yeah, or even cheaper on DraftKings, they go down to 3,000. So I don't put any rules like that, and especially like late in the season, I think we're gonna start seeing some guys coming in off the bench and playing like much bigger run than we maybe would have thought, as teams like limit the minutes of their starters.
Tell you what's interesting is that no players coming in at higher than 40% on the DK optimals I ran. I do a little bit of manipulation. The most popular player for Cleveland, Sam Merrill at 29%, Karis LeVert at 23%. That's also a revenge game for Karis LeVert, right?
Yeah.
Okoro at 12%. Seeing a lot of Kings, the Kings versus Memphis, at least hitting in the very first optimal, which is kind of Harry Barnes is the most popular player, which is to me really uncomfortable. I don't know if you feel great about Harrison Barnes as your most popular player on the slate. Probably not spectacular. I understand why he's just cheap, right? But that's not something I want to get over the field on. And unless you have a thought on how do you feel about Barnes being really, really chalky? I know we're on a different game there. I'm just jumping to a different game, but ran some optimal stuff, and it's just like kind of surprising that Barnes is that. I knew he was that popular earlier in the day, and I thought it might change, but it hasn't changed yet.
I think it'll change. Like I think once some of these, still have so many questionable guys. Like once this injury news clears up, I'm kind of presuming not every single guy that's questionable is going to be in. I'd probably lean more towards every single guy that's questionable is going to be out. Like I don't think that'll happen either. So depending on which situations we get the guys sitting, I think that's going to open up some value. We'll end up using that value instead of Harrison Barnes, and then still getting our Anthony Davis or whatever we want on DraftKings.
Yeah, some weird names, but not so weird when you consider the time of year. Delano Banton is really, especially on FanDuel, we'll talk about that, but Banton at 5-1 is really smashing some optimals because he's playing like 40 minutes these days. Can you power rank the Cavs for me? We'll talk about the Pacers in a second, but how about the Cleveland guys as far as interest? And you talk about the starting lineup. I don't think we're projecting Merrill to start. We're projecting Garland, LeVert, Okoro, the minivan Niang, and Jared Allen, with Merrill being like the sixth man. And there's really not much back behind that, like I was talking about. Tristan Thompson, Damian Jones, Craig Porter, the aforementioned Craig Porter. It should be a really tight rotation here for Cleveland. Minutes-wise, we're given 36 to Garland, 35 to Allen, 35 to LeVert, 34 Okoro, 28 to Niang, 27 for Merrill. And then, 18 to Porter, 14 Thompson, 9 to Jones, just because, you can't play like a 6 or 7 man rotation, essentially. You can't assume that at least. Can you power rank your interest as far as the Cavs? All things
and it's much different on FanDuel versus DraftKings. So FanDuel, Jared Allen is 8,300, and he's got power forward eligibility. So like he's the guy I'm most interested in, followed by Karis LeVert, and also like the pricing impacts this a little bit. on DraftKings, I think the guy that probably most interested in may actually be Craig Porter, which is a little bit of a different take. But at only 3,300, I think especially late in the season, teams start to take some of this like homecoming stuff a little bit more seriously. And at 3,300, it's not that much of a risk. I'm just assuming he's going to be a little bit lower owned than Sam Merrill, than Karis LeVert. But so Porter's maybe the guy I like the most, followed by LeVert, probably followed by Merrill. And it's not then until you maybe get like probably Darius Garland and Jared Allen. It's like Jared Allen's much tougher on DraftKings, where he's like more expensive relative to the salary cap and also center only eligible.
So, question about Porter. You said you're probably going to get Porter the most on DK. If you're playing Porter, are you putting any rules of if Porter, like no more than one of Garland, LeVert, Allen? Because the story kind of goes, well, if this game gets ugly, Porter is awesome, right? He's going to play he's playing the entire fourth quarter basically. And if he also gets loose, like if he really gets loose, like if this game is close, do you think Porter closes? Probably not. I guess there's a route if he can get hot. He's a good shooter, or he's a streaky shooter, I suppose I should say. I'm just trying to think like if you're playing Porter, maybe limit one of the big three to one on Cleveland. Just sort of throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it would probably be Darius Garland. I don't know that I would necessarily limit him. Like what if Darius Garland gets hurt? Right, then maybe you want Karis LeVert, Craig Porter, and Jared Allen. But I maybe would say one of like Porter and Darius Garland.
What about the Pacers? This Cleveland team not as good. Obviously defensively they're missing some guys. Wade's been really good defensively. We're assuming he's out. He's officially doubtful. Pacers are really healthy. They play a deep rotation. They tend to not play their guys a ton of minutes. I think Pascal is probably the best, one of the best options, dollar for dollar. But I just don't really love Indiana. How do you feel about the Pacers?
Yeah, I agree. I don't love Indiana here. I mean, it's a really good matchup for Cleveland, a bad matchup for Indiana. So I'd go Pascal Siakam, and that's about it. And I'd maybe want an Indiana guy if I'm using like 4 Cleveland guys, something like that, right? Then I want an Indiana guy. And that Indiana guy would probably be Pascal Siakam. I don't have a whole lot of interest in any other Pacer. Like 150 lineups, you can try like Tyrese Halliburton, Aaron Nesmith, but be like limited interest.
Yeah, the Halliburton thing, it's like fetch, right? We're all trying to make it happen, and it's just not happening. At least not the way it was happening earlier in the year. And I guess it could happen tonight, but probably not, right? It's just, when was the last time Halliburton has broken a slate where it's like, man, I wish I had Halliburton? It's been maybe at least a month. It's been a long time. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, I agree. And it might happen, but this probably isn't the matchup for it.
Yeah. I'm looking at his game log, and like his best game in the last month, it's like when he played against the West. Like, West. I'm like, oh, All-Star game. Okay. Yeah, that is his best game. He put up 53 DK points in the All-Star game. After that, 52 versus Detroit. But since then, no more than like 47, 48 or so. Nothing you need. I think McConnell was kind of hurting him a little bit by a little bit more crossover. McConnell just being on the court is taking away a little bit of usage, I think. I'm not exactly sure why he's falling back, but that's just the case. And I don't think this is a night where he necessarily bounces back. And love him. One of these days I'm going to open that to – I'm going to go back, but not tonight. All right, let's move on to 7:30. 7:30. Let's skip Detroit and Boston, and maybe we come back and get more news at 5:30. We might. Well, let's do that. Let's skip that game and talk Miami, Philadelphia. Another game where we don't have full clarity. We do know the total is paltry, 208.5. Miami is a 1.5 point dog here. Jimmy Butler is officially questionable, which is certainly a big deal here for Miami. Jovic is out, no Hero, no Love. Richardson done for the year. And Tobias Harris is officially questionable too. Nothing new as far as the other injuries. Of course, Embiid not coming back anytime soon. Covington, Melton, they're also out. I do want to pull up the if-then stuff, but like, what's the best you can do? 7:30 as far as this game, because Butler, obviously a key piece for Miami. Bam is really strong, really solid. You got to pay for him. We saw Robinson crush kind of not a revenge game, a hometown game yesterday in Michigan. I think he put 30 points in the bucket versus the Pistons. He's from I don't know if he's from Detroit. I'm pretty sure he's from Michigan, maybe from the outskirts, not certain. And then Philadelphia, we don't know about Harris. Certainly Maxey can always get there. He can always put 30, 35 points in the bucket, but the matchup versus Miami is not prime. Your thoughts? Heat, 76ers, 208.5 total. Not terribly exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It's lowest total on the slate. It's not really that exciting. Maybe get some pieces of it on FanDuel where we have 2 less games to work with on DraftKings with stuff that might open up later with like Minnesota or the Lakers or who knows that I don't really want to be clogging up my roster spots with this game. On FanDuel, like, I don't know, if Jimmy Butler plays, like, Philadelphia is not as good defensively now. It's reasonable, but it's still like the lowest total on the board. But sometimes and we all like skipped the first game last week, and Josh Hart went berserk for the Knicks. So sometimes sometimes those games, unexpected games, come from out of nowhere. If I had to guess, like if I had to play a guy from this game, like if Jimmy Butler is in, Jimmy Butler would be the guy that I'm interested in. If Jimmy Butler is out, then you maybe want to start looking at like a little bit of Bam Adebayo or Caleb Martin.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and pull up the if then. As far as the DK values, if Jimmy's out, Bam would become a pretty good value. Obviously, got to pay for him, but his median projection would be about 46, 47 points. I like Jaime Jaquez as kind of a mid-tier guy. He would jump up to about 30-point projection, 35 minutes, which is pretty healthy. Caleb Martin also looks, again, not somebody that's going to break the slate per se, but should play somewhere like around 30, 31, 32 minutes. And in Rozier, I think Rozier would get a bump also to 37 points. Yeah, 37 points. DK is a median score, 36 on FanDuel. But like if Butler plays, I'm mostly just not interested. Although I want to pick on that Philadelphia defense, but Butler also has not been spectacular, and you got to pay for him still. There's no discount, and he still has not been great. And the Harris situation for Philadelphia, Maxey, if Harris is out, he could have like a monster usage in this game. Revenge game, first blood revenge game for Kyle Lowry. I think it's his first game facing Miami. I would imagine so. He's still pretty old, but, he's going to play 30-plus minutes or so. Your thoughts as far as the Sixers? This game, again, not appealing if everybody plays. It opens up a little bit, certainly, if we lose Butler, if we lose Harris.
Yeah, actually, like Kyle Lowry, I could see that. I could see him being vengeful. There's no, projection reason to think he's going to, have a great score for his price, but maybe the vengeance narrative actually is there.
Yeah.
And I don't. I'd give a little bit of a boost to Tyrese Maxey, but it's still not a great matchup. Like if Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris is out, it's not going to help this game total, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's just probably the least appealing game on the slate.
I thought there was a chance we get an update for the 5:30 injury report on the East Coast. Nothing. Do we keep bumping the Boston game back, or shall we talk about it and do the if then? Is that a waste of our breath, or what do you want to do here as far as Pistons and Celtics?
Yeah, we can talk about Boston.
All right. 223 is the total. Boston is a 16-point favorite. Both teams are playing the back half of a back-to-back. Several players have already been ruled out here. On the Boston side, Tatum is questionable. Brown is questionable. And like you said before, just if one plays and the other one doesn't, they're gonna look great. They're gonna project awesome. Porzingis should be good to go. White is also available, Derek White, but there's no Horford, there's no Hauser, and there's no Drew Holiday. As far as Detroit, Oscar Thompson's still dealing with that illness. Fontecchio's got a toe, so he's questionable. Detroit can be really, really thin. I haven't really thought about the Fontecchio thing. Who would open up? Because that's like 30 minutes to go around. Oh, good Lord. It's not Evan Fournier, is it?
It's Evan Fournier. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And
so
Cunningham's
we'd probably be looking at like Marcus Sasser and Evan Fournier night. On the Boston side, it wouldn't shock me if the questionable guys play. I feel like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have both played through some being listed as questionable. They just pop up as active. But even if both of those guys play, I'm probably most interested in like the Boston bench and Peyton Pritchard here. I think there's a good chance Pritchard will start just with the guys that we have out, with Drew Holiday out and Sam Hauser out. Like if you start running like court IQ stuff and start taking Boston guys off, like Peyton Pritchard always like pops up as if there's more usage available, he's the guy that takes it. And like Sam Hauser just had a berserk game yesterday against my Wizards. Shot 10 of 13 from 3-point range, and then twisted his ankle. Didn't look like too serious, but he's like limping to the locker room. So probably not a surprise he's not going to play here. But I imagine like Peyton Pritchard is going to take a bunch of those shots that Sam Hauser was taking last night. And Pritchard's pretty good at distributing the ball as well. Can rebound for his size. So he's probably the guy that I'm most interested in here.
By the way, you mentioned their name right on cue. Coulibaly ruled out for tomorrow. Tyus Jones ruled out for tomorrow. Avdia ruled out for tomorrow. I've worked through this. I'm sure you've worked through this as well. Like, the work's already been done. Like, there's basically no chance they fall in the bottom three, as far as, tankathon, if you want to call it. Kuzma apparently is not on the injury report, so I guess he'll be healthy. Those guys legit hurt because, again, like it would take a miracle for them to win like 6 or 7 more games. That's how far ahead they are, the 4th team. But just it's odd if they're tanking, if that's what they're doing.
My guess is they don't need losses at this point. But my guess is they're probably just trying to open up minutes to take a look at like some of the real end of the roster guys like Patrick Baldwin and Champagne's brother, and see like, do they want to keep these guys around on contracts? So maybe mixing and matching the guys that they want to keep, and then seeing how the end of the bench guys play with those guys. And I think they also like they don't want to get Avdia or Coulibaly hurt, so they might be a little bit like legitimately dinged up. There, well, we're just not going to get our like former lottery pick hurt. So yeah, I think that's probably
that makes sense. Yeah, that angle makes much more sense than tanking, because people say they're tanking. It's like, I don't think they're tanking. They don't need to tank. Like it happens organically, and they're already well positioned where they can almost, well, I'm not saying win out. They're not going to win out. Yeah. But like they can win 5 or 6 games. It doesn't matter. And they're not going to win 5 or 6 games. It's just, that's not going to happen because the other team is trying as is. Man. So, by the way, starting lineup, you thought Pritchard being expected to start. You're expecting him to start. We have projected him to start as well. Pritchard, White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis. And again, 2 of those starters are currently questionable. We do have an if-then for Jaylen Brown. If he doesn't go, like Tatum will project from 54, 52 points. Pritchard, 31, 30 DK FanDuel points. White would have a great projection, 39, 38. Porzingis still around 39, 40. The thing with him is like his minutes are going to kind of keep him down, right? They're giving him 30 minutes. And like the flyer would be Jaden Springer, I think is the most interesting flyer possibly. He's sort of like that Craig Porter, where like he can take a bunch of shots and kind of just put 20 points in the bucket if this game blows out, just take over the 4th. Svi Mikhailiuk is another guy who could be interesting. Is that, like, as far as the ambitious, like if this game blows out, especially if we start them without Brown or without Tatum, without one of those guys, is it Springer? Is it Mikhailiuk? Brissett? As far as the cheapest for Boston?
I'm probably most interested in Svi Mikhailiuk. But like Jaden Springer's on my radar as well. The closing lineup yesterday was Peyton Pritchard along with O'Shea Brissett, who actually started, and then Svi Mikhailiuk, Jaden Springer, and Neemias Queta. So yeah, I think the guys I'd be interested, like Mikhailiuk can always like hit some 3-pointers. Jaden Springer, I feel like he played some big minutes with Philadelphia. He was like fantasy relevant once. Yeah, I think either one of those guys could end up coming in and having a big game. I'm probably more confident in Mikhailiuk than Jaden Springer, but it's a toss-up.
Hammer in chat has reminded me to give the movie clue number 2, and to be, again, a reminder that it's already been won. We're going to play the string out. But you know what? Next time, I'm going to just set this up. I'm going to set this rule. If somebody binks it, I will have a backup game, and we'll give out 2 individual weeks. But I'm going to do my best to make sure nobody binks it again going forward. But congratulations to that person who binked it. Feel free to submit your if you're going to play along, you can play along in the chat, play along in the Discord channel. But the second clue amongst 5 clues, tell me what movie we're talking about. 1 was Diamond, 2 is Beach. Diamond, Beach. Those are my first 2 clues. More will be coming. All right. We're moving on as far as Boston and the. Wait, did we talk about Detroit vaguely? How much Detroit did we talk about?
Talked about Evan Fournier. It's really hard without Cade Cunningham. I mean, it's a bad matchup if like Cunningham is in. If Cunningham is out, then I think you have to start looking at Marcus Sasser and Evan Fournier. And I guess it's like if Cunningham's out, you got to start looking at Marcus Sasser. If Fontecchio's out, then you got to start looking at like what the starting lineup is, and then if it's Evan Fournier, like then he's relevant. But other than that, like if everybody's in, it's a bad matchup for Detroit, and I have almost no interest.
Michael makes a good point. There's a chance like Troy Brown wouldn't be like shocking if Fontecchio and Cunningham out, they just start Troy Brown just because one of their two-way guys. He's 3K, and I guess that's worth noting. But it's gonna be a mess. Why did they sign Taj Gibson? Like, just what's the point? How does that work?
Why does Taj Gibson's just a cool guy to hang out with, right? Because he signs with these teams. Like someone DeAndre Jordan, right? Like, why is DeAndre Jordan still in the league? I don't know. He must be a nice guy. He picks up the tab at the restaurants. You know, that contract's going to work, I guess.
He tells some great stories. I bet he's got some great stories. He's been in the league for a long time. Guy has some great tip stories. It's just it's weird. And like, good. Keep on grinding, Dodge. Like, good for you. He doesn't want to hang it up just yet. Have a good time. But what's the point? But it's a good time, I'm sure. Anyways, all right. Let's talk about the Blazers. Another fun team. This slate, man, it's kind of gross, isn't it, for an 8-gamer? Even smaller on FanDuel, just 5 games on FanDuel. Blazers, Bulls, 213.5. And I think we were talking about this last week. A lot of the totals just kind of going down as the season progresses. Pace as an overall just kind of going down. I don't know if players are just getting tired or what. But 213.5 total for Portland and Chicago. Chicago about a 9-point favorite here. Who's in and who's out for this one? Well, Jeremy Grant most likely not going to play. He's doubtful. Thibault's got an ankle, so he's questionable. And then everybody else is like nothing new. Chicago, White, I think we're ruling White out because he's officially doubtful. That could change, but he's currently not being projected. Alex Caruso and his hip, he is questionable. We mentioned Julian Phillips also out with his foot. But the Bulls, they should have a pretty tight rotation here against Portland. We get even tighter. If White is out, we get even tighter. If Caruso is out, how do you feel about the Blazers and the Bulls?
Yeah, so it's Delano Banton season. Started 7 of the last 8 games. Reading off my expert survey. 7 of the last 8 games for Portland. Averaging over 20 points per game. In the starts, like 5.6 rebounds, 4 assists. And he's 5,600 on DraftKings, which is cheap. He's like 5,100 on FanDuel. And like anytime somebody's less expensive on FanDuel than DraftKings, that's probably a mistake. And especially if the guys are relevant on DraftKings, you're going to be getting a ton of them on FanDuel. Definitely going to be playing a lot of Delano Banton here. And I don't know. I guess you could play some DeAndre Ayton, but I don't know. Then the Chicago side, it starts to get really interesting. If you assume that Kobe White's out, then you're starting to get a lot more like Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic and Ayo Dosunmu. Then if Caruso's out, then you've got to fill those minutes in production somehow. So you may maybe start looking at some of the real end of the bench guys for Chicago.
I was trying to see if we have an if-then setup for Chicago. No, we're assuming White is out, and Caruso we don't have an if-then setup for. He's currently questionable. But DeAndre Ayton, he's the stat compiler on a bad team. Like if there was a picture in the dictionary, stat compiler on a bad, and sometimes he doesn't even compile stats. He just kind of picks his spots. But he's that classic guy, right? I think he's the guy. Yeah,
I'm surprised he's not a wizard yet, but he's still got some years left.
They got their eyes on him. But yeah, Ayton for Poole is going to be offered in the offseason. This is somebody who says no, who says yes. All right, yeah. But I'm running new optimal stuff as well too, and I'm just trying to see if there's anything different. And I know our ownership stuff updated just a few minutes ago as well that I thought would be worth noting. Let's see, just to take me a second to get there. Yeah, so Banton is expected to be 29% owned on DK, and the FanDuel number is going to be even more. That's going to be, like you kind of alluded to. I'm giving a refresh over there, but he's going to be like at least 50% over on FanDuel, is he not? I think he is.
Yeah,
smaller slate and cheaper price. So 51% is our current ownership on Delano Banton. on FanDuel. He's got the rainbow when it comes to the tags. Everybody set him up. Pritchard as well at 38%. Ayo Dosunmu in the same game coming at 30%. So it's not only just a better price, but a smaller pool because you're losing the last 3 games. Banton's going to be really, really popular on FanDuel. And you're in. Like you're buying it because minutes equal money, and he's going to play. What is we're only projecting 32 minutes for Banton for what it's worth, and we've seen him exceed that. Portland's had funky rotations; they're hard to predict and all that. And we're also giving Thibault 20 right now, who's currently questionable. So he could gain a few more when projections come out. Your targets for the Bulls, you have a power ranking: Dosunmu, DeRozan, Vuk, Caruso, and that's it. Because what's his name? The one that is out. Officially doubtful is White. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I'm on Chicago, or are we addressing Tobias Harris?
Oh, Tobias Harris being out. We can walk. We'll just kind of go back on that. We'll walk back to it, but let's knock this out first. Give projections a second to update it.
So I think for Chicago, the guy I'm most interested in is Alex Caruso, maybe Vucevic. Like Vucevic's had a pretty well priced, especially on FanDuel, where you have like one less game to work with. So it's kind of a tie between Vucevic and Caruso on FanDuel. On DraftKings, actually, I still probably like Vucevic a little bit more. So power rankings probably Vuce, then Alex Caruso, then DeMar DeRozan, then Ayo Dosunmu. They have a guy that I'd never heard of until this morning. Anuralep Bidham is probably a guy I'm going to be playing some, just because I like to play guys I literally found out about that day. So, especially if Caruso's out, I'm going to be playing some Bidham. I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced, but. Oh, I think you're on mute.
He's had a few moments, this Bidham character. But, I suppose if things open up and so there's a potential chance for a blowout here against this Blazer team, and a lot of it matters on how much value is open up and how much it's worth the old risk versus reward. But, keep your eye on them. You can see what certainly mop up here if called upon. By the way, they're asking in chat about the movie game. Yeah, we've already had a winner. We've already had a winner for the movie game. 2 clues have been dropped. I will drop a third one because why not? So this is just for funsies. This is just get some reps in. Clue number 1 was diamond. Number 2 was beach. Number 3 is babe. So squirrel, if you're following along, diamond, beach, babe. So there you go. And again, somebody banked this on 1. And there are people in chat talking about it, and maybe the answer has been officially revealed in chat. Well, projections just updated. For Philadelphia, Ricky Council IV has entered the rotation. Not a lot of minutes there, but I think they're giving him like 4 or 5 fantasy points with Harris stepping aside. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm distracted now. Did we close out the Chicago, the Portland side? Anything else you want to say as far as Portland? Banton. We love Banton. Apparently, we can't get enough of them.
Banton or bust.
Simons. Is Simons a sprinkle, a dash, a pinch?
You do a pinch. I'll probably be playing some Chicago guys, and so maybe you want to shake it up. Alternate the Banton with the Simons or something like that. So you can play a pinch.
All right, going to be updating this stuff for Philadelphia. We'll jump back in a second. Yeah, Derek's asking about Kamara. Yeah. Do you have any interest in Kamara on Portland?
He's 4,900 on FanDuel.
44
I think,
DK.
Yeah, I think you can do that. He's been playing pretty big minutes. DraftKings, what is he? 4,400. Yeah, you could do worse. There will be worse options at small forward, power forward. I'll give the thumbs up to Kamara.
Yeah, I mean not the most rousing of endorsements. Like if remember back in the day, you would go to I don't know, even the Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster or Hollywood Video? Like you'd read here's the reviewer in the back of the box, and like if it said you could do worse, Roger Ebert. Like you're not renting that movie. You're probably gonna put it down and go keep browsing. But you could do worse. But it's it's probably not the best movie necessarily. All right. It is amazing how spoiled we are now. But that was a Friday night, was it not? Hitting up the old Blockbuster and the Hollywood Video.
Yeah, absolutely. That was all you had to do. And yeah, it would be like packed. You could barely get in.
And the sweat was like the brand new movie that just dropped. Like, are they going to have it in stock, or is it going to be out, or is it just going to be like the box with like no cassette behind it, no DVD behind it? That was the sweat. And now, like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
right. They had all the boxes. You had to check and see if the actual video cassette was there in the box.
TJ in chat is telling me about likes. You know what? I did not beg or grovel for likes. Hit that like button, please. I'd much appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm going to catch the wrathing of TJ. Hit the like and subscribe. We'd appreciate that as well. Turn on those notifications. Subscribe so we start talking about baseball in 10 days. Very much looking forward to switching over to baseball. I was drafting a little bit of baseball best ball earlier in the day. I saw O'Neal Cruz hit two more homers. I'm like, I got to get some more O'Neal Cruz. He's got like 7 now in the spring. Get excited. I don't know who he did off of. Could have been some single A player. I could not tell you, but he's just he's a fun dude for sure. One of my favorite players to watch, especially when the ball's in play and he's running around the bases. All right, we're moving on as far as Portland and Chicago. Did you want to jump back to Philadelphia? I know we gave our projection team enough time. They're asking in chat about Batum. Yeah, the Philadelphia stuff. Maxey, if you have the salary, he's still expensive, but even more stuff coming his way. And you were talking about Lowry before. Lowry's gonna have an opportunity. He's gonna play a fair bit against his old team. Well, how do things change with Harris being out for Philadelphia for you?
Let's see. So it's still not a good matchup. Is Philadelphia favored in this game?
By 1.5 points.
That might be a sign Jimmy Butler's not suiting up. All right, so yeah, I guess like I don't know if I'm playing anybody on Philadelphia, it really might be Kyle Lowry for the revenge narrative. These guys still don't look that great. Is it Nick Batum? I guess presumed to start for Tobias Harris.
I think so. Yeah, that's the presumed starter.
Yeah. Let's see, what is he priced? 4,200, 4,400. He's there with Kamara, right at around the $4,000 like forward slots. I'd still probably prefer Kamara, to be honest, to Nick Batum.
Kamara, the 102.5 team total. Philadelphia, the 105 team total. And yeah, that's a fair point. That line is out there. If Jimmy was playing, you'd feel like this game would be like at least even or something, right? I don't think Jimmy plays, for the record. It's my leaning, but I don't feel confident about that. But I think there's a pretty good chance we do not see Jimmy play in that game. We should get that news. The update on Boston is no update. Tatum and Brown are still questionable. They are probably more likely, like you kind of said, maybe they play just because, again, they don't really need to play him. It's Detroit. It's the back half of back-to-back, but it's also a home game, I think home game, you're more likely to play in these games where they're probably healthy. We'll see. But again, we'll get that news. Crunch Time probably gets that news at some point, maybe around 6:30 or so, and they'll be talking about it. But that's the best we can do. This is the last game on the FanDuel slate. The last game on the FanDuel slate, Minnesota taking on the Jazz. 223.5 is the total. Minnesota 5-point favorite in Utah tonight. And again, more clusters as far as in and out. Gobert's got that rib for his revenge game. Kyle Anderson, slow-mo's got a shoulder. We know Cat's out. Monty Morris is questionable with his hammy. Utah, there's still no Clarkson with his groin. And Lauri Markkanen came back, and he's instantly questionable with a quad. What's the best we can do here as far as Minnesota and Utah?
So I think Anthony Edwards looks good on FanDuel, and I think Rudy Gobert looks good on DraftKings. The issue is, what if Gobert doesn't play? But the good news on DraftKings is you still have a bunch of games after this. So if you're planning on Rudy Gobert and he ends up being out, then you're potentially not stuck. It's really hard to talk about. It's a great matchup for Minnesota, bad matchup for Utah. So I'm interested in the Minnesota guys. It's just with questionable tags, it's hard to talk about with certainty. But you can always play Anthony Edwards. He just is more expensive at this point. But he'll look really good at probably if like Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert are out. But yeah, it's basically I like Anthony Edwards on FanDuel, and and Rudy Gobert on DraftKings.
Do you think Kyle Anderson is a good chalk play? The way I'm seeing it, looks like he's going to be fairly chalky. I don't love that. He's just weird because sometimes he has those games where he goes like 7, 6, 5, 2, 1, and like he just gets there by just getting a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Utah, good matchup, of course. I just don't like, chalk Kyle Anderson, which I think he's still going to be kind of chalky. He's still going to become more chalky if we lose Gobert. Yeah, officially I want to come in under that.
But, yeah, I don't think he's going to be chalky. We're showing him at 8% ownership.
Oh, okay. So that what it is? Okay, we had an update when it comes to ownership, and I'm having this conversation an hour ago, I guess, with the Anderson thing. And then thank you for pointing that out because all right. So what if he's not chalky? Do you like Anderson or just kind of somewhere in the middle?
No.
You don't really yeah. I don't want to play either.
Yeah, don't want to play Kyle Anderson. His nickname's like Shlomo, like he's moving in slow motion. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it you
that
thought
about that? Like when I've got a sweat and I've got Kyle Anderson on the team and I'm like just begging for him to get a rebound, get an assist, get anything so I can move up. And I'm like, he's literally nicknamed like slow-mo.
So if Markkanen doesn't play, we have an if down for Markkanen. Even still, there's no real DK or FanDuel values. Taylor Hendricks is a slight FanDuel value, but nothing spectacular. Sexton's like right there on the fringe, basically a neutral value. I don't think you want to play Markkanen if he plays. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm guessing you're probably not in on Markkanen. If he does go, Utah as a whole just looks pretty no priorities, some fringe stuff. That's pretty much where I'm at. What say you?
Yeah, so Taylor Hendricks is interesting. 4,500 power forward on FanDuel. Like that's definitely doable. He's got double-digit rebounds in 3 of his last 4 games. See why he's not showing up on DraftKings. Yeah, he's 5,200. So that's like anytime somebody's more expensive on DraftKings, it's a bad sign. And just power forward eligible. So he's not really a DraftKings play, especially with the bigger slate over there. But yeah, he's relevant on FanDuel.
So I meant to ask this one. We know that Cat is out. If Gobert is unable to have his revenge game, is there any meat on the Naz Reid like 7-8, 7-3? Like it's certainly sticker shock, but he could put up a 50 spot with those guys out against this team. What do we do with Naz? I think he would project pretty well if he lost Gobert.
Yeah, oof, he's expensive. 7,300 on DraftKings. Yeah. But he's got over 50. I thought that sounded ridiculous, but he's got 50 DraftKings points in 2 of his last 4 games. I think we'd have to consider some Naz Reid. But I think what it might be, I mean, Naz Reid is 7,300. Rudy Gobert is 7,900. So it might just be that I like Rudy Gobert on DraftKings, and I'm just swapping down kind of, and if I can get something else, move up somewhere else in my roster for the price, that's great. But otherwise, I'm just playing Naz Reid.
Okay, yeah, you don't think about it too hard. It's a 1v1 swap, and you eat $600, and who cares? I see both Tim and TJ. No, not TJ. I just see TJ hanging out in chat, just giving me grief. We see Kirkwood hanging out in chat. A lot of RG guys hanging out in chat. Tim is in the bullpen warming up with Keith Eyster, Kevin Roth. Crunch time coming in about 20 minutes or so. That is the end of the FanDuel slate. Again, the DK slate includes the next 3 games, the night games, 10 o'clock and beyond. We did get a winner in our movie trivia, but I'm going to play out the string for those that have not seen the winner just yet. I think it's been spoiled a couple times. I understand you're guessing and playing along, but let's just play it out. Clue number 1 is Diamond, then Beach, then Babe. And clue number 4 is Ham. Ham. Diamond, Beach, Babe, Ham. Squirrel. I think you're going to get there on clue number 5. I think you're going to get there on clue number 5. You're playing along, I think. You're playing along, kind of, sort of, somewhat. Trying to piece it together. I feel like you've seen this before.
Yeah.
I think. Well, yeah. And I'll even, it's kind of a nostalgia movie. So a lot of people are nostalgic for this movie. And I kind of think, for the record, overrated. We can talk about that later. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about the Grizz. Oh, Jimmy Butler's officially out. There you go. There's the news. We could circle back to Miami, but yeah, Miami becomes more interesting. We'll discuss soon enough. Memphis at the Kings, 221 is the total. Memphis 10-point dogs here. We saw the return of Desmond Bane. Good for him. Love Desmond Bane. He's back. Everybody else is not playing. Vince Williams is officially doubtful. Kennard, Stevens, Pippen, Watanabe. The rest, Triple J expected to go. The Kings are really healthy, with the exception of Vezenkov. We haven't seen him for at least a month. And Trey Lyles. How do you feel about Memphis, Sacramento? And again, for the people, if you're not aware, this is exclusively DK, not on the FanDuel main slate. There's probably a 3-gamer or showdown stuff, something going on there in FanDuel, but not on their main slate. Sacramento, Memphis, what do you got?
Yeah, so actually I'm pretty interested in the Kings here. Good matchup against a Memphis team that is keeping games competitive, but also losing them. So like the Kings here at home. I guess we're getting a lot of Harrison Barnes, and I not surprisingly don't love that. I'm guessing that's going to get replaced with some other value. I guess we've now got Nick Batum.
Miami stuff.
Yeah, potentially some Miami guys. Jaime Jaquez is probably going to look good.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think I had said Caleb Martin, but my guess, and I think Caleb Martin will be relevant, but it'll probably be Jaime Jaquez, and he's probably going to eat a bunch of this Harrison Barnes. So I think the guys that I want to get to are actually spend ups. I don't want to spend up for Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox. I don't think I necessarily want to run it back with a Memphis guy. We have no idea what the rotations are. Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson are back now, but they're probably not going to push those guys. And they probably another team where I feel like Memphis for a while now has been kind of rotating who's in and who's out, trying to get a look at different guys to evaluate them. But that's not. I don't want guys that are maybe playing limited minutes or playing unexpected minutes or unexpectedly small minutes on my DFS rosters. So definitely just more interested in the Sacramento side here. Probably the guy that I'm most interested in might actually be Keegan Murray at the at 5,500. And then if I can get some Malik Monk, some Sabonis, and then if I want to play some De'Aaron Fox, I'll probably end up right about around the field on De'Aaron Fox.
How do you feel about Sabonis versus Davis, Anthony Davis? Both centers, center only.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like them about the same. Can I say that? Can I say that? I've got them projected almost exactly the same. I'd probably lean Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming his eye is fine, right? I don't know if he's wearing goggles or not, but the matchup there against Atlanta certainly pretty good. I mean, it's not going to run away, but I guess the defense gets a little better with the Okongwu if he's available. He's officially questionable, but still, Davis looks spectacular here. Projections-wise, we have a slight projection on Davis over Sabonis for what it's worth. Sabonis leading the league in triple-doubles. He's already 2/3 of the way there, and the game hasn't even started. He just needs to get there with assists. Okay, let's I really don't want – if Barnes still is popping in some way, and I don't know if he will be, again, like we keep saying, I do not want that. Do not want. It's just sort of my – yeah, I can't imagine Harry Barnes – by Jason Tatum just rolled out. We're probably going to get Brown now in a second. And, yeah, definitely – now the Harry Barnes is gone, right? Yeah. With Tatum out, right. It's been killed, I think. I imagine I'm keep refreshing Twitter. I'm like, well, we're going to get the Brown news though. But I got a follow-up question. What about Jaylen Brown? Looks like Brown is in and Porzingis is in. Okay, but no Tatum. All right. We'll circle back and see what projections do there, but certainly that changes the slate and some fringe Boston stuff might be moving up, and the ceiling on a guy like Jaylen Brown definitely gets elevated. The ceiling on a guy like Derek White gets elevated as well. Butler getting kicked out. The projections guys are on top of everything. They keep updating it. We've got the Butler projection, and now they just can't stop. It's like the Popeyes gift, right? It's a long day. It's a rough day for projections. Let's talk about New York. New York and Golden State. We're done, right? We're done with Memphis and Sacramento. I think we are.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, New York, Golden State, 211.5 is the total. Golden State about a 7-point favorite here versus New York. Who's in and who's out as far as this one? Well, no OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby being out for New York is kind of a big deal. It might have been a bigger deal about an hour ago. Curious to see how projections land. Obviously, Julius Randle, Mitch Robb, they're still out. They've been out for a while. They're out for indefinitely, I suppose. Golden State's officially clean. Nothing. They're totally healthy. They have a deep rotation, and they're facing New York. Do you like anybody in Golden State?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm interested in Golden State at all. I'm trying to think of what could possibly change that. Of the games that are on DraftKings but not on FanDuel, this is probably the one that I'm the least interested in. And I will say, I think I have been seeing, Precious Achiuwa project pretty well on DraftKings. He's pretty underpriced, but he's also now more expensive than Jaime Jaquez, who I'm guessing is going to leapfrog him in projection and probably the guy that I'm more interested in. I might not be interested in this game at all.
So Cunningham is out and Fontecchio is out. So Precious, I think, is going to get bumped back. Whatever sort of value play he was. Harry Barnes, gone. Harry Barnes, we never knew you. Just forget it. The Flying Armbar in chat says Evan Fournier season. Man. Oh. Oh, man. Well, what's the line in this game? Well, Tatum's out, right? But now Detroit, oh, boy. It was 16, 17 before. I think Sasser is going to be the guy that really jumps up. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Sasser. I feel like in situations like this, you do want the guy dribbling the ball, because that's kind of where it all starts, right? He's they need somebody to dribble the ball up the court. It's going to be Marcus Sasser. Alec Burks is gone. He's on the Knicks now.
Yeah. Will we see Taj Gibson play a minute at this game? Is it going to blow out enough where Taj gets on the court?
I don't know. If so, he's got to pick up dinner afterwards. So that's why he's on the team. I don't know. I think, Marcus Sasser is probably going to be interesting here. Maybe some Jaden Ivey as well. And I guess if Evan Fournier is 3,000, I think we're going to be interested. I kind of prefer Fournier to Troy Brown. Even if Troy Brown ends up starting, I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask. What if Troy Brown's starting and Fournier's not starting? Fournier 3.6. I'm seeing. Is that DK or FanDuel? I can't remember which one I have open right now. That is on DK's 3.6. By the way, he used to play for Boston, right? Did he ever actually play for Boston? I see somebody saying in chat, revenge. I think he was on the roster, but is this one of those where he never actually was he hurt the whole time? I feel like he wore a uniform, at least it took a photo op while wearing a Boston jersey. But I don't remember if Fournier ever actually played with Boston. He might have, maybe a cup of coffee, but he was in the organization. Fairly certain of that. All right, so projections are going to be updating fast and furious. But is it turning into a star scrub slate? Is that what we're getting now?
I think so, and I think we were destined to get here no matter what. We kind of knew it in our hearts that we were going to end up here. Just so many guys questionable late in the season, NBA, especially with Boston. Boston was already a place where the bench was starting to become very relevant. Just a word of caution with Boston is that I think they don't need to win the game, and they're still 15 and a half, 16-point favorites. I would be surprised if we see Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis in the fourth quarter here, no matter what happens.
Well, wait, if it's a 3-point game, you don't think Brown and Porzingis are out there?
Maybe. The game's totally meaningless for Boston, right?
Yeah. They haven't officially clinched, the division, but they're going to, any day now. Mathematically, they're well ahead. I think they have 8 or 9 games up on Milwaukee, and there's 16 games left, or not even, no, there's 15, 16, depending on. So, they're going to clinch the division at some point. I would just say, to that point, that they're just not going to get pushed. So, they can close the game, but they're not going to play 34, 35, especially Porzingis. Might be 30, 31. I think that's sort of the way I see it. Our projections are still updating. We still have Tatum in, but they're going to be on top of that and give that an update in a second. Or maybe they did it, and I just got to get the old refresh. Let's see. Last update was at 6:02. So we might actually have – nope, we still have Tatum in. So next update, they're going to kick Tatum out. We'll circle back. Let's knock out Atlanta and the Lakers. And let's knock out our last clue for funsies in the movie game. Again, did we officially already shout out the winner? I believe either producer Devin or producer Steve already contacted our winner in the chat. Shout out to Peterman 79, who nailed it. I won't tell you the answer just yet, but I believe either producer Devin or producer Eve hooked up and got him a week of premium already. The last clue. You ready for it? First one, Diamond, Beach, Babe, Ham. The last clue, Squirrel, Hercules. Hercules. Diamond, Beach, Babe, Ham, Hercules. Do anything for you?
Not really.
All right. Well, it's good. It's all going to make sense. I promise you, it's all going to make sense. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll circle back and talk about the some interesting guesses in the chat. We've already had the answer revealed, and none of those are it. Last game of the DK slate is Atlanta taking on the Lakers. 225.5 is the total. Lakers are 9-point favorites versus Atlanta. Some news we're still waiting for the Hawks. We don't know if Okungwa's going to play. He's got that toe. Trae Young obviously still out. Bogdanovic should be good to go. The Lakers, officially LeBron is questionable. I assume he plays here. They're still trying to get out of in the 10 or the 9 spot in the West. They can certainly move up a little bit. They're battling or jockeying for playoff position. Not a big matchup or playoff like Eastern Conference game. Atlanta, for what it's worth, is kind of entrenched in either the 10 or the 9. They're either going to host that game or going to be on the road in the 10-9 game. That's the way things are looking right now. Davis should be good to go with his eye. Reddish is still out. Wood is still out. Vanderbilt's still out. Your thoughts when it comes to the Hawks and the Lakers? And yeah, man, it just feels like all these games, like the total is like 5 points less if this game was played like a month and a half ago. Just very strange.
Scoring is way down since the All-Star break. I think like the NBA was even having a meeting about it or something, or sent out some memo. But it is like a thing that's being asked about with the NBA. So I think the real interest here is Anthony Davis. I mean, we're only on DraftKings at this point. I think Anthony Davis is going to be one of the top plays there. It's a great matchup against Atlanta. You can play some DeJounte Murray, but run it back with an Atlanta guy. But my primary interest here is Anthony Davis.
What does your expert survey answers look like right now, Squirrel? If I were to pull it up right now, the NBA expert survey, how expired are your submissions from like 3:00 in the afternoon?
So I don't think they're that.
Oh,
they're not that bad.
Okay.
I think my favorite player to spend up on is Vucevic. For tournaments, it's DeRozan. But cash games is still Banton for salary relief play, Peyton Pritchard. I have Cade Cunningham as a bust. He's going to bust now.
Definitely a bust.
Afraid of being underweight on Rudy Gobert in case he gets ruled in. I don't know. Still standing okay.
All right. Looks like we got an update as well as far as I want to take a look at the slate as a whole. I'm looking at DK. I want to see what's like fully popping. Boston. This is what we're giving for Boston right now. Wait a second. We still have Tatum. Okay. I think I have to give it one more refresh, or they're still working on it. Tatum, they still have in. Is that right? No, he is gone. Okay. I'm just doing a poor job over here of getting to it. Boston, 36 minutes for Jaylen Brown, 35 for White, 32 Pritchard, 31 Porzingis. Brissett getting 26 minutes, 25-point projection. Cornette not really dropping, not really getting a big bump. It's more the wings that are going to be more interesting. Mikhailuk getting 20 minutes, 18 for Tillman, 18 for Springer. Quaita only getting 4. I think that looks about right. Detroit. Let's see. Ivy, 34. Stewart, 33. Sasser, 33 minutes. Yeah. 33 minutes for Sasser. Oh, Evan Fournier, 31 minutes. Great. Umude is 24 minutes. Troy Brown, 18. This stuff can flip-flop, obviously, depending upon what starting lineups look like and information coming on through. But that's our initial lean. Now I'm running some optimal stuff and trying to see what's really, really popping hard. How do you feel about that Boston-Detroit game as a whole? Because it really can just be – it could be like a 30-point game into 3 quarters and just be a huge mess.
Yeah, it's funny because it's now a game I'm probably interested in watching. Like if I'm watching a game on NBA League Pass tonight, for now it's become like – the opposite of anybody that's like watching for basketball reasons. Suddenly I'm interested in watching, is it, if I've got, 3,600 small forward, do I want Evan Fournier or Svi Mikhailuk? I don't know. I'm leaning towards Svi as a tournament pivot, but it should be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the minutes go. I think Jaylen Brown is going to project pretty well. I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant because I do think, just having watched the Washington game last night, Jason Tatum went absolutely berserk, and Sam Hauser went absolutely berserk. But then they were up 30-something points, and Jason Tatum checked out in the middle of the third quarter. I thought, well, he is not going to come back into this game. And then Sam Hauser got hurt. I do think the guy from this game and maybe for the slate is Peyton Pritchard. Just because he's a guy they let close yesterday. I think more than anything else, the Sam Hauser injury might affect him, where they want somebody who's experienced with the bench unit out there running things. So I think there's a good chance Peyton Pritchard could start the game and close the game, even if it's a blowout.
Love that. I love those players that can start and close. They have multiple routes if the game gets ugly, if it doesn't get ugly. Very first optimal I have has 3 Pistons. It's got 2 stars, Anthony Davis, and I don't think we talked about DeJounte Murray, but DeJounte Murray's running the world there for Atlanta. He is the guy, and like we said, we started this slate turns pretty stars and scrubsy, and you certainly have the money to pay for him. So, that's definitely a route you can go. Pritchard is in it. Brissett is in it. Sasser. The most popular player that's hitting the most percentage of my optimals right now is O'Shea Brissett for Boston. This is on DK. Stanley Moutier hitting a fair bit. Fournier hitting a fair bit. Good Lord. Don't feel great about that, but I think he's going to get some run. Pritchard, Sasser. We talked about Jaime Jaquez. Davis, if you have the salary, you do have the salary. Derek White. DeMar DeRozan, perfectly fine. There's Jaylen Brown as well. Nothing really surprising coming up as far as the optimals. I'll take a peek at FanDuel as well, see if there's anything goofy. But yeah, what coming into the show and where you're at now, what has changed most drastically for you?
What's changed the most? I'll probably be playing a little bit more Philadelphia than I had thought with Tobias Harris. That Miami Philadelphia game. Actually, I'll probably be playing more Miami than I thought, and I'll probably be adding a little bit of Philadelphia to those Miami pieces that are probably showing up in a bunch of my lineups. I'll probably add some Tyrese Maxey or add some Kyle Lowry revenge narrative to my lineup.
You okay? You okay playing LeBron and Davis together?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I do think that maybe makes for an interesting pairing, and maybe I'd try to go with a cheaper Atlanta guy if I could there. Not necessarily DeJounte Murray, although you could. I don't know what Jalen Johnson's price is. That's not a terrible game to stack. It's got one of the higher totals. In fact, it may have the highest total, 225. So, yeah, it's not a terrible game to stack.
Jalen Johnson was awesome. I'm a big fan as is. He was great against the Clippers there. They blew the Clippers out, which was kind of surprising. They were up 25-30 at some point in that game. Clippers punched back a little bit, but they still ended up winning 15 or so. Cleveland, Garland is starting with LeVert, Okoro, Niang, and Allen. So if you're curious if LeVert was starting, LeVert is officially starting. I do want to give the winner before you step aside and make way for crunch time, those that have played along. I did give the shout out earlier to, let's see. I think I got the right person. Did I say the wrong? Somebody added me as well. I believe the winner was Peterman. Peterman 79 in our little movie game. Clue number 1, Diamond, Beach, Babe, Ham, Hercules, Squirrel. It's all going to hit you now. You ready for it? Diamond reminds you of certain sports.
Yeah.
Baseball. Okay. Beach. Okay. Diamond, Beach, Babe, Ham, Hercules. Beach. What's at the beach? Amongst other things. What are you standing on at the beach?
Oh, sand.
Yeah. Continue that thought.
It's a lot of sand.
Where do you So baseball and sands. Sandlot. The Sandlot.
Okay. Yeah.
that's our movie. And there was a Babe Ruth baseball in the Sandlot. The Husky catcher his name was Ham. That was his nickname. And there was the dog. There was the dog they were afraid of. The dog's name was Hercules.
That's the James Earl Jones one.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
There you go. So that just describes. Yeah. You probably saw when you were younger, I'm guessing.
I think I saw it a couple of years ago.
It's a weird thing to say. You probably saw when you're younger. Anything you saw it when you were younger, right? That's just how that works. There's no way to see it when you weren't. All right. We should have, I think we should have crunch time coming in. Roth he's touting you. He's like upset in chat. I think he's mad and you didn't get it. He just says in our little secret chat, come on, man. Well, we can bring Roth on and he can give you the business in 3, 2, and 1. Kevin Roth is upset.
Squirrel and I would be the worst.
What was that
of all time?
Jesus Christ!
We'd be so bad.
Who are you mad at?
I didn't know it either. I didn't know it.
Oh my God, Tim! Are you guys kidding? If there was the segment, like, come on, man! Like literally everyone in the chat was just yelling at you.
Squirrel and I would win the low ball every night in this game.
Hell, God, Squirrel, I love you, but that was embarrassing.
I've only seen the movie once. It was like on TV, and my wife was like, "You've never seen this movie." It was one of those movies like, "You've never seen this?" I'm like, "No." And so I was like kind of vaguely paying attention. I think my daughter was watching it. She'll be better at this game in like 40 years than I am. She's like, "Oh yeah, the Sandlot. I saw that as a kid." But yeah,
it's a good thing
you're
good
a baseball
DFS.
guy. I'm sure.
Yeah,
baseball guy. You've probably seen it. I'm sure you're aware of the Sandlot.
Yeah, of course. I am also horrible at the game, but I did have this one after the second clue. After Diamond and Beach. Clue. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you said Diamond, I'm like, okay, baseball movie. And then Beach, I put the sand together. I had it after the second one on this one, but the other ones you've done, I've been completely clueless.
that was a birdie. Like a par was 3. 3 was par, so you got a birdie. So well done. Somebody binked it. Somebody dropped an eagle earlier in the show. They got it on 1. So new rule, if somebody gets it on 1, I will have a backup one ready to go so we can keep playing, and we'll just like give out 2 individual weeks. So that'll be how it goes, because I just make them harder. I'm not sure. We'll see. But Squirrel, we got to step aside and make way for crunch time, right? Unless we got anything else. Roth, anything else weekend wise you want to banter about?
No, I'm good. We can big slate, so we can dive on into it and get some content rolling here.
10 days and counting, Roth. 10 days and counting, and so you're staring at your phone and staring at weather, and all the pressure is on you. And all of a sudden, people on Twitter, they're not going to be as nice to you sometimes.
Yeah, they get a lot meaner.
Roth can't wait. He's so excited for baseball season.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up at 3:00 in the morning with like hot sweats thinking of the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, it's all accurate. Sadly,
Squirrel, give the people the old feel it in the plums play before we step aside and get out of here.
I think it's my second consecutive time saying this guy for Field in the Plums, but I'm going to go with Peyton Pritchard again.
There it is. That was Squirrel Patrol. I was Dean. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Do all those things. And do continue to watch Crunch Time as they take you all the way up to lock. You got Tasteful Tim. You got Keith Eyster. And you have Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's Crunch Time. 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. Going to help walk you through the slate here. We're going to take you up to lock. We're going to take some questions. We might even take you through lock. And we got a big one. We got a good one, I think. We got my guy, Tim, in the house. Tasteful Tides. What up, Tim?
Yeah, not much. Definitely a pretty wild slate here. We just got a ton of news right before we got on air. So have to parse through that. And one big thing just for everybody, FanDuel is only a 5-game slate and DK is an 8-game slate. So it's a completely different ball game between the 2 sites. So make sure when you're asking questions to say which site you're talking about, because it really matters.
That is a very good note. I have to say, you look very much in your element in this garb. Like if I were to see you out randomly on the streets in Maine, is this what you would be wearing?
In fact, I did touch grass today. I was pretty disappointed in myself. I know Dean's mad at me for doing that, but yes. So yes, You are correct. You are correct.
Yeah, it just really completes the whole, like, when I see you in that shirt, I just get it. I get everything about you, and I approve. Just so you know, I approve of this look. Hey, we got my guy Keith in the house as well. Keith Eyster, aka the Iceman. What's up?
It is that time of the year. Tons of news breaking, as Tim said. So we've got a wild one. When we first opened it up this morning and started to do content, it's like, oh boy, this could get real ugly by the time lock rolls around, and that is in fact the case. So there's all the value you could ever imagine on this one.
That's how it goes. Late season NBA, you know, something is opening up every time. Like, that's just the way it goes. Hey, well, I suppose we can just dive into it. Tim, are you going to be my cash donkey and kind of walk me through what's happened,
Yeah.
what maybe we're waiting for, and then start us off with the FanDuel cash build, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we just got a ton of news with Boston and Detroit. So we got Tatum out, we got Holiday out, big bumps to guys like Brown and Derek White and obviously Peyton Pritchard. And then we had Cade Cunningham out. So now we have to parse through this Detroit situation, which I find is the most challenging thing because I don't trust any of these guys in this horrible matchup. So that's going to be really hard. It's really going to be, I think, harder for MME players because how do you kind of weigh your exposures to some of these unknowns for Detroit? So we'll see how projections shake out with Detroit. I think the biggest thing we are waiting on in terms of news is Rudy Gobert, because if he were to miss, Naz Reid would be an absolute smash play. So I think he's the big one that we're waiting on. Keith, is there any other injury news that you're seeing that I didn't bring up that we're waiting for? We've gotten pretty much everything.
Anthony Davis on DraftKings, I would say, is the other one. He does have an actual injury. He got poked in the eye or something. So that's a true questionable tag, but it sounds like he's probably going to play today. But that is at least a true questionable tag, where LeBron, I think, is the same big Q we always get.
Right. So what I would do in that scenario, Anthony Davis is rating out as a really strong play. He's $100 less than LeBron on DK. I would just leave yourself that extra 100, put him in the util, and then LeBron becomes a smash play if AD is out. So I forgot about AD.
Okay, nice. Somebody says poked in the eye. Low. I'll tell you, I was hooping once, and as I went to pull back on my shot, I got fouled, and I thumbed my eyeball so hard, it hurt for, I don't know, 2 months. So I will say it is not a very fun injury, and I could not imagine playing basketball with that. Let's see. I bet Gobert sits, yada yada. All right, well let's dive into the slate, I suppose. Tim, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so I'll start off at FanDuel at point guard like we always do. One really easy cash game play, very simple. It's Peyton Pritchard. Should be starting at the point, should play over 30 minutes, I'd say safely. This is going to be probably another Celtics blowout, but I think Peyton Pritchard is still going to play his minutes regardless. So he is absolutely a smash cash game play and tournament play, in my opinion. Delano Banton, he was going to be the chalk cash game guy on FanDuel and on DK. He's still an absolutely great play at 5,100. Both of these guys are only point guard eligible, so that kind of just takes up your point guard spot right there on FanDuel. I would really not if you want to play Derek White, you want to play Alex Caruso, you want to play Dosunmu, you could play all those guys at shooting guard. So point guard is super easy. It's Peyton Pritchard, it's Delano Banton. Shooting guard, same guys I just mentioned. Stanley Umade, 3,900. He's projecting as a very, very strong points per dollar play. He's one of these unknown Detroit guys that I'm a little bit nervous, I guess, recommending for cash because we probably don't need the salary necessarily in cash. I suppose if you do, you could play him at 3,900. I'm just a little bit nervous about this Detroit side, really, especially in cash. Tournaments, it's completely fine. I would assume I'm definitely playing at shooting guard. You can make the case for guys like Karis LeVert, Alex Caruso, Anthony Simons, I think are all extremely viable plays at the shooting guard position. I have to mention Anthony Edwards just real quick. He's 10-3. He's too expensive for cash, but I really like him for a single entry type play, GPP. Small forward, Jaime Jaquez is my favorite. I think he's the safest at 5,200. Evan Fournier, I never thought that I would recommend him for cash.
Yeah.
I don't know if I am going to recommend him for cash because we have Jaime Jaquez, we have Jaylen Brown, we have other guys that you can play. We have Karis LeVert. There's other. We have O'Shea Brissett even. I would feel more comfortable playing O'Shea Brissett in cash than I do in 30. We're projecting 48 for 31 minutes. Like, yeah, it's possible. And if he plays 31 minutes, he'll probably do pretty well. He's not going to make the cut for me in cash games anyway. If people want to play him in tournaments, that's fine. Power forward, Kristaps Porzingis at 8,100 is the top play. $8,100. Don't play him at center. Definitely play him at your power forward. I love Jarrett Allen today. 8,300. Projected to play 35 minutes against the Pacers. That's a really nice pace up spot for Cleveland. So I think he is definitely in the cash game conversation. Taylor Hendricks, 4,500. He would be my favorite punt at the power forward position. And then Caleb Martin also 5,400. So there's guys like in the mid range that you can play pretty easily. Center, it's tough. There's quite a few centers that are all like within $500 of each other. We've got Vucevic, we've got Bam. If you're playing just cash, I would probably just stick with Bam at 85, but Vucevic is great. DeAndre Ayton's one of my favorite tournament plays on the entire slate, so I have no problem with him. So I'd really stick with Bam and cash, and then maybe pivot to like Vucevic or Ayton in GPPs.
Okay, nice. Ice, I want to bring you in and talk through what your tournament thoughts are in general, and then kind of walk me through a build.
Yeah, so Detroit Boston is just going to be jumping off the page with value. I don't think you can get away from it. I think multiple pieces on both sides of that game absolutely smash. You can do some different things like playing guys who are projecting just a little bit worse. An example of that would be like Sasser is projecting outstanding, but Amude isn't quite as good, but there's a chance that Amude could outscore Sasser. So just flipping the ownership on those two guys, I think is a viable strategy. The Gobert questionable tag, I am very interested in as well. I think that would definitely open up some things on Minnesota. I'm with Tim in that Anthony Edwards is a phenomenal tournament play either way. He's really expensive, but he's been paying that off with regularity. Has a great matchup against Utah as well. And if Gobert gets ruled out, then he's just going to have absolutely insane usage and could play like 40 minutes. Also have Kyle Anderson and Monte Morris questionable there, which could raise his minute ceiling as well. Mixing in a little of Minnesota, I think is viable, or in fact, a strategy that I want to be like overweight on. If we were to get Kyle Anderson rolled out, McDaniels should play a ton of minutes in that situation. Even Nickeil Alexander-Walker could play a bunch of minutes. I don't think anybody's going to play those guys off the bat. Like the Detroit Boston stuff is just so good, but I do want a sprinkle of them. You can start with Kyle Anderson in your lineup. I think he's viable in this situation without Towns anyway. And then if Anderson gets ruled out, you can pivot to McDaniels or Alexander Walker. Even Taylor Hendricks on the other side of that game is pretty interesting. Has been starting and playing a bunch of minutes here recently, over 30 in the last game. So interested in Tyler Hendricks. Just think that last game here on FanDuel is really going to go overlooked. But yeah. I mean, I think the Detroit Boston thing is the main thing. And then spending up at point guard is going to be a very unique strategy just because we have such awesome value plays. Pritchard is an awesome value.
Right. Tim just said straight up, like, these are the two dudes you're playing at point guard. And I assume that's what most people are doing, right? Yeah.
And there's even a third one like Sasser. You can't even play all three of Pritchard, Banton, and Sasser. And all three of them are like the top three values on the slate. So
yeah,
going to somebody like Darius Garland is going to be way off the board. And I absolutely love that. Cleveland is shorthanded again. No Donovan Mitchell, no Evan Mobley, no Max Strus. And the matchup is great against Indiana. They play at a really fast pace, and they're pretty bad on defense as well. So Cleveland in a really good spot. Darius Garland, one of my favorite tournament plays. Tyrese Maxey is without Tobias Harris. So it's not a good matchup for Maxey, but he's going to have like 35% usage in this game, maybe more than that. Think he has an incredible ceiling. Rozier on the other side of that game, like nobody's playing these guys with all the value at point guard. So I think spending up at point guard is a really unique way to build and a good way to get different.
So a quick question. If you're spending up at point guard, you've got to give up some of these values. Do you have them kind of ranked in your head of which ones you are more willing to part with?
Yeah. So I think Pritchard and Banton would be the priorities. Like Pritchard, I don't see, even if the game blows out, I still think he plays 30 plus minutes. We saw this yesterday, in fact, where he closed a blowout in a game that was well out of hand. So Pritchard feels super safe to me. Banton is another guy, a little bit more volatile, but Jeremy Grant is out. He's played over 40 minutes a couple of times in the last like 4 or 5 games. So we have him projected for 32 minutes right now. But if like Matisse Thybulle gets ruled out as well, another 40 minutes from Banton would not surprise me. So especially on FanDuel, where he's just 5,100, I think Banton is an incredible play. Sasser, I'm fine being well under the field on that. I think he'll be out there. We've seen him get opportunity and just not carry the same usage that he's had off the bench in spots. So being underweight on Sasser would be the guy that I would be underweight. And then Umude has shooting guard eligibility, I believe. Let me confirm that. Yeah. So I think pivoting and spending down at shooting guard for Umude is a great way to get off of some of the Sasser stuff.
Okay, great. Let's walk through shooting guard.
All right.
Unless you had other point guards and I cut you off. I don't know.
No. I think we covered point guard pretty well. Shooting guard, I think Derek White is just in a phenomenal spot. There's obviously blowout risk with these Boston studs, but there's also a chance that they just absolutely crush in 3 quarters, and it doesn't matter that they don't play the 4th quarter. Jaylen Brown as well. Karis LeVert is a great mid-range guy. Mentioned all the injuries there with Cleveland. Great matchup against Indiana. Anthony Edwards, one of my favorite spends on the entire slate. Let's see. Mid-range, I think Okoro is fine. And I don't think people are going to be like, there's so many like 3 and 4K plays. I don't think many are getting to the 5K values that were popping before all this news. Okoro is going to play like 34, 35 minutes today. I think he is totally fine. At small forward, Brissett's popping off the page. Another guy who I think is blowout proof. He also closed yesterday, so it's hard to see him playing less than like 25 minutes. I don't feel as comfortable about his production as I do about Pritchard's. So we'll see where the ownership shakes out on that. I probably end up underweight on Brissett. Jaquez is in a great spot without Jimmy Butler. Great matchup against Philly, who's been pretty bad defensively without Embiid, and now Tobias Harris is out as well. Probably be underweight on that DeRozan ownership. I think he's fine. I prefer Ayo Dosunmu. Just save a little bit of money. Blowout potential against Portland. Mentioned LeVert. The Fournier stuff is definitely uncomfortable. I think I just prefer going overweight on Umude and being underweight on Sasser and Fournier. I will have him in my pool just because if he does play 30 minutes, he could absolutely put up 30 FanDuel points and be somebody that could help you win a tournament. But I'll be underweight on him. Caleb Martin, I think, is interesting. Potential for him to play huge minutes in this spot without Jimmy Butler. Mentioned Kyle Anderson, and then potentially pivoting down to some of the other Minnesota guys as a way to get a little bit different. Let's see. Oubre should have a ton of usage. And again, not a great matchup there against Miami, but I think the upside is incredible for him. At the power forward position, I love Jared Allen. Just great ceiling without Evan Mobley. Gets a usage bump without Donovan Mitchell as well. Love the game environment against Indiana. Porzingis, a guy I'll probably be underweight on, just hoping for the blowout and that he just doesn't get there in a little bit fewer than typical minutes. Mentioned Taylor Hendricks as a guy, a salary saver that I like for Utah. Should be in that starting lineup again. Let's see here. It gets pretty ugly at power forward after that, honestly. That's why I'm so into Allen. I think Caleb Martin's really solid. Hendricks as well. McDaniels is in play. Prefer him if Kyle Anderson does get ruled out or Gobert gets ruled out. And then the center position is absolutely loaded, and you can go multiple different ways. I believe, let's see, my favorite play is Ayton. I'm on board with Tim there. He's been playing massive minutes. Not the best matchup against Chicago, but it's hard to look away from the minutes. We're talking like 38 minutes here of late. And the usage is way up as well. Now without Jeremy Grant, Ayton potentially looking at like upper 20s usage in this spot. Miles Turner, I think, is incredibly interesting. That 8K range is absolutely loaded. Bam is awesome. Vooch is awesome. Just talked about Ayton. Even Gobert, even with the questionable tag, I want to grab some Gobert. Love the matchup for him against Utah. But saving some money and going down to Miles Turner, I think, is super interesting. It's a tough matchup with Jared Allen on the other side. But we've seen Turner do big things before. He has the block upside here, which really helps on FanDuel. And then Jalen Duren, again, another guy who's not in a good matchup, but who we've seen absolutely smash a couple of games. No Cade Cunningham. He should have plenty of usage. I think he has upside for like a 2020 game if Detroit is somehow able to keep this close.
Very nice. Okay. Do want to get some thoughts on DK, but first we should note, if you're thinking about signing up for RotoGrinders Premium and you want to pay month by month, I've got a better idea for you. There's never been a better time because with NBA, PGA, NCAA, NHL, MMA, MLB, all right around the corner, you can get a 6-month combo subscription at the exclusive price of $469.99, which is a savings of $250 as opposed to doing 6 individual months of combo premium. You could also, if that's a little pricey for you or sounds it, you can do the combo test run with our 3-day pass at $19.99 if you want to test the waters before you dive in. We got the link in the description below. So make sure you are clicking that. Let's talk DK. Tim, you mentioned it's a whole different slate. It's a whole different ballgame over there.
Yeah, it's a whole different slate. I just have one question for Keith real quick that might help other people. Who do you think mops for Boston?
That is a good question.
Who do you think what?
Mops up. Like closes in a blowout.
Thank you.
I mentioned Pritchard and Brissett both mopped up in the last game. We have them both projected to start. Brissett started yesterday and also closed in like a 30-point game. So I think Pritchard and Brissett have the potential to start and mop up just because their bench is so big. Like I don't think they're going to play Cornette, Tillman, and Kada together. So that leaves basically like Svi Mikhailuk and Jaden Springer. Maybe Jordan Walsh sees mop up duty. Like, I don't, the fact that Brissett did it yesterday, I don't know that they even feel the need to put Walsh or like Drew Peterson. Those are the guys at the end of the bench. They might see like the last 2 or 3 minutes, but I think Pritchard and Brissett would play pretty deep into the fourth quarter, even in like a 30-point game.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm seeing in chat, and I don't know if this has been confirmed, Anthony says Scoot is starting over Banton. Is that something that we have cleared? And if so,
and he won't have a minutes limit.
That makes Banton a lot more risky.
Wow, that's a different slate now, I feel like. But
he's still too cheap on FanDuel, I think. But you're probably looking at like mid-20s minutes now instead of 30 with the potential for 40. Like, I think 40 is absolutely out of the question now.
Right. Can you play Scoot now on DK at 5,300?
Yeah, I think you probably can, because if they took the minutes restrictions off, like he was playing mid-30s before the injury without a minutes restriction. So I assume that we'll probably only go up to like 30 as like a medium projection, but there's upside for more for sure.
Yeah, he played 24 last game, 25 the game before that. He got up to 33 on the 11th. So I mean, he might be in play now. That really hurts Banton. Yeah.
And Tim Banton was one of your guys that you had in cash, right?
Yeah.
Definitely on FanDuel, and probably was going to be on DK too. Definitely in cash, especially given the fact that he is point guard, shooting guard on DraftKings, so it makes it even easier to play him on DK. This is definitely changes things, but at least we have time now, though. We have time to deal with this. The game doesn't start till 8. Projections will shake out. We'll see. They might, hurt each other's upside, really. But yeah, so it's definitely not as secure as it was before that news.
And Ice, you mentioned 3 point guards that you liked. Now, one of them getting a downgrade here. Does that make it A, more viable for what you were doing with spending up at one of the point guards? And B, do you now like the guy who you had kind of in third place over Banton?
So I think it was Sasser was the other. Like Pritchard is the clear cut number one option now. I think Sasser is definitely safer at this point, but it actually makes me like Banton for tournaments a little bit more, just because the ownership's going to come way down on him. And I still think that there's a chance. I don't think he's going to be projected for it, but I think there's a chance he could still play 30 minutes in the spot.
Mm-hmm. But it does make the idea of spending up at point guard a little
even
better.
more intriguing. Yeah.
Right.
I think more people are going to be willing to do that. Like, you're going to get a worse ownership number on it, but it's also less likely that two of the cheap guys beat you.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Very good. Let's kick it over to DK and Tim. I will let you walk me through the very different slate over there.
Yeah, so we're adding 3 games: Memphis, Sacramento, Knicks, Warriors, and Hawks and Lakers for this DK slate. So it's a completely different slate. I will start at the point guard position. Definitely not as sure on Banton as a cash game play now, but I am still absolutely sure on Peyton Pritchard. So he's definitely going to be in your cash games 100%, no questions asked. 4,800. Marcus Sasser, 4,400. He's point guard, shooting guard, definitely. Yeah, we just got the Scoot projection, Keith, and it is pretty good. So he's definitely in play for tournaments. You could probably play him in cash if you trust that 32-minute projection. So at 5,300, Scoot Henderson is absolutely in play. So, and then I still really like Ayo Dosunmu quite a bit at 6,500. But really, I would say Pritchard is an absolute must. I would play Derek White in cash games, but I would play him at shooting guard, not point guard. So I would say Pritchard and White I would start off with. Then for pivots, Henderson, and you could definitely play Sasser too in cash. Shooting guard, I already mentioned Derek White, Marcus Sasser, Jaylen Brown, but I'd probably play him at small forward. Karis LeVert is definitely a really, really strong play. Really good matchup. So yeah, I mean, guys in that mid-range, Stanley Umide for the Stone Min, I still don't think you really need him. So I get the projection. He's fine if you need him, but I don't think you need him in cash games today. So he's a pass for me. So I would just stick with guys like, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Sasser, guys like that for cash games. Small forward, Evan Fournier is the top projected play. Really don't think you need him either, but I mean, you certainly can play him. I just really don't try. I don't want to get too much to this Detroit situation, especially on my cash game team or my single entry team. So maybe pick one of those guys. Like, probably would be Sasser for me, but they are projecting really well for points per dollar. Jaime Jaquez, I absolutely love at 5K. He's small forward, power forward eligible. Harrison Barnes, he was going to be really, really chalky. Now I don't think he's going to be, which is really nice for tournaments. He's only 4,200, projected to play 32 minutes against Memphis. I really like him today. I wasn't going to play him as chalk, but I don't think he's going to be that chalky now. So I think he's pretty interesting. Of course, we have Jaylen Brown. He can absolutely smash in 3 quarters against this horrible Detroit team. We also got DeMar DeRozan, should play really, really big minutes here at 8,300. Small forward, power forward, definitely cash game viable and definitely tournament viable as well. And then power forward, of all these cheap guys, like under 3,900, I like O'Shea Brissett the best. Keith mentioned that he thinks that I'll play in a blowout, which would be really, really nice at 3,400. He allows you to get to guys like AD or LeBron or any of these like Sabonis, like all these like really expensive guys, So O'Shea Brissett is definitely viable in cash. If you want to go more of the balanced build approach, I love Jaime Jaquez and I love Precious Achiuwa. They both should play very, very heavy minutes, and they're right around 5K. So those are definitely. Oh, and I really love Josh Hart today. I might play him in single entry. He's projected to play 39 minutes. He's like one of the best rebounding guards.
He rebounds the shit
yeah,
out of the ball.
I know.
Dude, it's amazing.
I know Brunson's playing, but like this guy seriously has like triple double upside, and like nobody's gonna play him. So I really like him in tournaments today. But yeah, not a cash game play. Definitely not a cash game play. And then center, it's AD really is the center. So hopefully we get that news that he's gonna be in. I think he will be. 10-2, I would definitely play him in cash. And then if you can't afford him, there's other options that are really easy to get to. Bam, DeAndre Ayton would be fine. But I wouldn't go too low at the center position.
Okay, very good. Ice, I want to bring you in, talk tournaments. Can we start with it seems the biggest change is maybe bringing in the Lakers, like bringing in AD. A lot of the plays are the same. How important is that AD news? And if he's out, is there a cheap pivot, or is it just like, all right, go to LeBron? We play LeBron.
I think you're going to want to go to LeBron in that situation. He should be projecting off the page. Awesome matchup against Atlanta. It is worth noting that Atlanta has played a little bit slower since Trae Young's injury. So maybe not as good of a matchup as it looks like if you're looking at season-long numbers, but he should still just absolutely smash in this spot. But like there's a ton of upside at center. So I'm finding it difficult to get overweight on Anthony Davis just because he's projecting as the most popular center.
Yeah.
But I love Sabonis today. I love Vucevic today. I love DeAndre Ayton today. I want to play some Rudy Gobert. I love Jared Allen, who is so Allen is a little popular on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's center only and he's priced up. But he still has massive upside without Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Jared Allen is one of my favorite plays at just 8K. Jalen Duren, Miles Turner, like the upside at the center position is massive. So I don't want to lock up a ton of spots on AD. I certainly think he's a great play and he'll be in like 15% of my lineups, but getting overweight on him I'm finding quite challenging. So that's one of my bigger stands.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's walk through a DK build if you don't mind, but that's a good note there starting at center. But let's kick it back to point guard and see what you like.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, a lot of the same names. The Detroit value looks really good. Like Sasser's, he's projecting great. If he plays 30 minutes, there's a good chance he smashes his $4,400 price tag. Still going to end up underweight just so I can do different things. Playing a guy like Amudier instead of him is very viable. Pritchard is the biggest one I'm struggling with. I probably end up just slightly over on Pritchard just because it's really hard to see him failing in this spot. He's just too cheap for the role. Dosunmu is great. Like the ownership number on Dosunmu has come way down. So I really like him in tournaments now, just spending up a little bit more. But no Kobe White. We saw him put up a career high in points the other day. So absolutely love Dosunmu. Garland, one of my favorite tournament plays as well. I think he has massive upside in this spot. Scoot Henderson definitely in the conversation now as he jumps into the starting lineup and sees his minutes restriction removed. Kyle Lowry is interesting. It's not a comfortable click, but if you're looking for a pivot at a cheap salary, like there's no Tobias Harris in this lineup. Somebody's going to have to take extra shots for Philly. It is revenge against Miami if you want to play that angle. So I think Kyle Lowry is interesting. At shooting guard, awesome spot for Karis LeVert. Ownership looks pretty good on him compared to how it did earlier in the day as well, with all these cheap guys jumping up. Tyrese Maxey has a ton of upside. Anthony Edwards, one of my favorite spends on the entire slate. I think he could go absolutely nuts in this spot. Let's see here. Desmond Bane is really interesting. Only one game returning since the injury, played 32 minutes in that game. He was playing like upper 30s and had like a 30% usage rate earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he's fully conditioned enough to be able to play upper 30s minutes at this point. But if he is, the matchup against the Kings is incredible. And the price tag, like he was up around 9K when he was doing that earlier in the season, 8,200 for Desmond Bane. I don't hate trying to be early on that.
And even mid 30s minutes, even if he just kind of incrementally, if he gets 35.
And also a guy who could just like score 40 points in 30 minutes and like 40 actual points. If he gets hot shooting threes, and Sacramento allows, it was the highest 3-point percentage in the league as of a couple of weeks ago. I haven't checked recently, but it's a good matchup for Bane for sure. Let's move it on to some forwards here. Getting LeBron in right away and just pivoting some of that down to AD if you want. If AD ultimately does end up playing is totally fine, but don't overlook LeBron. It's also a great matchup for him. Even if AD plays, I have interest there. Brissett, I think the minutes are safe. He's super cheap. So again, I want some exposure. I don't feel the need to necessarily get overweight on him. More of a safe floor type play for me than a true upside play. He certainly could go for like 30 points and you absolutely need him in a tournament, but I think it's less likely that he does that than playing him at like 60% or something like that. So I'm probably going to be around the field on Brissett. Jaquez, I think, has a bunch of upside in the spot against Philly. Anthony Edwards, mentioned him again. Fournier, very similar to Brissett, where I think the likely outcome is that he's just okay, but not a score that you need for tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
There is certainly a possibility, and these guys, since they're in the 3Ks, like they don't have to do all that much. But there are so many of them today. Like you need the one that goes for 30 points. Like 20 points at 3K is not going to crush me today.
Yeah.
I'll find somebody to beat that. Like it could be a Moutier instead of Fournier, and then you're just way ahead of the field by playing the guy at lower ownership. Svi Mikhailiuk is a guy for Boston that's kind of in that same mold where just get a little bit different. If the game blows out, Mikhailiuk could play 25 minutes and absolutely do plenty of stuff in a blowout against absolute scrubs from Detroit. I love Tim's Josh Hart call. That's a fantastic call. He plays a ton of minutes. Triple double upside is absolutely real. Keegan Murray, a guy that wasn't available on FanDuel, who I have a bunch of interest in here as well. Just like the matchup against Memphis and playing solid minutes here recently. So grab some Keegan Murray. And then we pretty much broke down the center position already. So I think we can go ahead and take some questions.
Okay, I love it. I want to start with this question from A. Dean. It is kind of a need to be a super user of Lineup HQ, and I am not. So Ice, I'm handing this to you. Is there a way to set a rule to make LeBron util only? That way I can swap him to AD if AD plays.
I don't believe that there is. You can make him small forward or power forward only, and it would build like that, but I don't think there's a way to force him into the util.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Okay. Good question. Let's see what we got. Always starting off in the RG Discord because that's where the cool kids hang out. Make sure you've joined the RotoGrinders Discord if you haven't. It's where I take the questions from first, and it's just a great community in general. DKGPP Ice, your favorite big spend pivot from AD. You liked a lot of centers. Is Sabonis?
Yeah, I think Sabonis at much less ownership is the answer there. Depends on how big the spend is that we're talking, but yeah, Sabonis is the answer. I do love Anthony Edwards as well.
Okay. TJ saying you can make it so that your latest games are in the util spot. So maybe that's a way to get around that.
Like TJ just saying, he will land there more than likely because it's one of the last games of the night.
I see.
He's either going to be in your forward util or your util, like full util.
I see. Okay.
Unfortunately, AD is center only, so you need him to be in the actual util spot instead of the forward spot. But
I got you.
Good point by TJ that just by probability being the late game, he will land in the util spot more often.
Okay. What else do we got here? DK Cash last piece. This is kind of a tough one here, Tim. Jaquez or Scoot? DK Cash last piece.
Oh,
you like
man.
them both. I know.
That is tough. I think I'd go Jaime Jaquez.
Okay, we'll go to Fit Crooks. Tim, this is DK Cash. He's already got AD locked. You want LeVert, LeBron, and White, or Jaylen Brown, Sabonis, and Jaquez?
Those are both really, really good. I think the first one.
Okay. If AD is out, though, and you have LeBron, are you going to run into trouble there if you have both of them?
We probably get that before the 10 o'clock window. So that puts the bonus in play. Like you'd be able to do it with the 3 games. If for some reason you don't have it by 10, then it gets much dicier.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. FanDuel GPP Ice, Bam or Gobert if he's in?
Give me Gobert if he plays.
Beaner says, Tim, your must-have players in FanDuel Cash. Maybe your favorite 2 or 3 guys.
Favorite 2 or 3 guys? Pritchard definitely. Then I'd go I'd go probably Pritchard, Derek White, and I really like Jaime Jaquez, so I'm going to say him.
Very nice. All right, FanDuel GPP, rather Lowry or Banton, Ice?
Give me Banton still.
Ice, your favorite FanDuel GPP stacks, your two favorite FanDuel GPP stacks.
I mean, Detroit, Boston is you're just going to get that naturally. I don't think stacks are necessary outside of that. Detroit, Boston is just a very clear and obvious answer. I think I'd go Miami, Philly as the other one.
Gotcha. All right. We are less than 2 minutes away from lock because we've been going through a lot here. So just FYI, get those lineups in. FanDuel cash question 3v3, Tim. Brissett, Zinger, and Vooch, or Caruso, DeRozan, Bam?
Those are both really good. I think the first one.
Okay. Fluff wants to know, Tim, are we locking Jared Allen in FanDuel cash?
I mean, you certainly can. Yeah, I mean, he's a really, really strong play. I like him quite a bit in cash.
I think you have convinced me that he is my feel it in my plums play of the day. And he was not even on my radar, but now I'm feeling him in my plums. What else do you have? Does Umude have the potential for more run if that game goes into a blowout? Ice, is Umude going to get more run?
Yep.
Yep. Very nice. That's what we like to hear. DKGPP, Gobert with a Q tag. Should I be ready to clean pivot to Nas or make a 2v2 swap?
I think the clean pivot to Nas is the way to go.
Okay. DKGPP 2v2 is kind of a tough one, Ice. Edwards and somebody at 5,700 or LeBron and Jaquez?
Let's see if I can find somebody at 5,700 real quick. DK, that was?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Banton.
Okay, nice.
Edwards and Banton.
DK Cash, Tim, less than we hit the lock. Desumu or White at shooting guard?
They're both really good, but I'd go White, safer for cash.
Okay, I'm going to run through these remaining few questions here. They might have already locked. So
only one game locked. So if it's Cleveland, Indiana, then we're good.
Okay. Yeah. DKGPP, Ice, Robinson or Martin?
I mean, is Robinson going to be unconscious from three again? I think I prefer Martin, but Robinson has more ceiling than we ever thought he had.
Okay. Ice, FanDuel, single entry GPP. Is it too risky only playing one Boston guy? Parentheses, Pritchard.
Was that for me? I'm sorry.
No, it was me. I probably want two at least. They're too cheap. Like if it blows out, there's probably more than one cheap guy getting there. I don't think you necessarily have to go up for the like Jaylen Brown and Porzingis. As long as you have Pritchard, I'd probably sneak in one more cheap guy.
Okay. Blink 182 says, can I get Santi Aldama in as a turning play on DK?
Didn't even consider him once today.
Okay. Two more questions, then we bounce. Tim, Turner or Vooch, FanDuel cash?
Vooch.
And then last question from Fluff says, any Jaden Ivey FanDuel single entry with, no Cade?
I think he's okay, but I think there are far better plays.
I would play a Boston star on the other side of that. Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, or Derek White.
Makes sense. Okay. Very good. Vooch or Nas Reed if no Gobert? Vooch or Nas if no Gobert?
I'd go Nas.
Yeah, it'd be Nas for me too.
Does Nas jump into one of the top plays on the slate if no Gobert?
Yeah.
I mean, he's expensive, so he's not going to I don't know that he would grade out as one of the top value. There's just so much value on the slate, but this ceiling is among the best on we're talking about 50 plus fantasy point ceiling.
Okay. Very good. Hey, with that, we have done the things that we came here to do. We're going to bounce on out of here. So for Tim, for Ice, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.